Good afternoon and welcome to Rutherford County Library System Smart Home 101 class. This is the first time that we've offered it, so hopefully it will go smoothly. If you're watching live, if you have any questions, feel free to write them out in the chat box, and I will be happy to answer them as I see them. My name is... Well, hold on one second, I'll show you. My thing is being slow. There we go. My name is Trey Gwynn. I'm the Technology and Outreach Coordinator for the Rutherford County Library System, and I'll be walking you through some of the things that you need to know to get started turning your home or apartment into a smart home. And then after this class is over, I will send an email to people who signed up ahead of time. I will choose a winner out of that group of this for this Google Nest Mini giveaway. So keep an eye on your email for that if you signed up beforehand. And of course, if you're not watching live, then sorry. Keep an eye out. Maybe we'll do another giveaway someday. But here we go. Before we get started, we need to define a couple of terms that are going to come up a lot in today's class. The first is smart home ecosystem, and the second is internet connected devices. Internet connected devices are devices that connect to Wi-Fi. They are physical devices that can work with each other and other systems via the internet. So, if I actually read my notes, it can be connected devices are physical objects that can connect with each other and other systems via the internet. There we go. I finally got it said out loud. A smart home ecosystem is an interconnected system where smart devices work together in harmony. So we're going to be talking about how you use internet connected devices, and then we'll talk about whether or not a smart home ecosystem is right for you. And it's down to your personal preference. We're going to talk about the different options that you have, because I know that there are security and privacy concerns when it comes to smart home technology, including stuff like Amazon Alexa and Google Assistant, and we're going to touch on all of that. But we're going to start with internet connected devices, because I want to take a few minutes to really talk about the kinds of things that you can do, and the best way to do that is to kind of talk about some of just barely scratch the surface of what these internet connected devices are. These are Wi-Fi enabled items that you can use to automate aspects of your life. And they are made by a wide variety of different brands. A lot of different brands have entered the smart device market. What I've put on the screen is just a small sample. And even though I personally own a few of the items that we'll be talking about today, I'm not going to try to endorse anything specific. If you're interested in buying smart devices, my suggestion is you do some research into the brands and the items and choose the ones that work best for you. And we'll take a similar tact with the smart home ecosystems later. Right now, though, you can buy smart bulbs, smart vacuums, smart thermostats, smart locks, smart washers, smart dryers, smart fridges, smart TVs, smart litter boxes, and more. When thinking about what smart devices are right for you, you need to decide what benefits the functionality will bring to your life. In my experience, the easiest way to get started with smart technology might be to get a smart TV. In fact, it is statistically likely that you already have a smart TV, or maybe even have an ad hoc smart TV. And what I mean by that is, if you have a TV, a regular traditional TV with some sort of streaming capable device like a Roku or an Amazon Fire or a game console connected to it, then you have created essentially an ad hoc smart TV. The only real difference between that and a smart TV is that the streaming capable hardware is built into the TV. So for a lot of people, that smart TV or ad hoc smart TV is a good way to get started, because most of those can then be integrated into other smart things. So like, for example, if you have an Amazon Fire attached to your TV, you can connect that to the Amazon ecosystem that we're going to talk about here in a minute. Beyond that, it comes down to what connectivity and automation would be useful for you. Would you like to be able to turn off all your lights with one click or using voice commands? Then, smart lights or smart plugs might be right for you. Do you want to be able to control your thermostat from your phone without having to get out of bed? Then a smart thermostat might be right for you. But the best part about this smart home stuff is that none of these devices are necessary to creating a smart home. So you can easily pick and choose the devices that benefit your life and the way you want to automate things. So for example, I cannot imagine the need to ever buy a smart washer or dryer. If I'm going to be loading clothes into the washer and dryer, then I'm likely standing there and can push the start button. And not having those isn't going to throw my smart home into chaos. If you're interested in making your home a smart home, it is an infinitely customizable hobby that you can mold to your needs. So if you don't want a smart lock, it's not going to preclude you from turning your house into a smart home. So now that we've spent a few minutes talking about like what even an internet connected device is, let's take a few moments to talk about smart home ecosystems. There are a lot of them, but the big four right now are Google Assistant, Apple HomeKit, Amazon Alexa, and Samsung SmartThings. Smart home ecosystems are interconnected systems that let you use your internet-connected devices in harmony. Generally, these are devices that can act as a hub that lets you control your disparate devices, even if the devices were made by different companies. So, unlike the world of internet-connected devices, the world of smart home ecosystems is dominated by multinational, gigantic companies. Companies like I said, like Google, Apple, Amazon, and Samsung have used their voice recognition software to build Wi-Fi connected hubs that allow users to control their smart devices. So these companies have already spent millions of dollars making Google Assistant or Siri or Alexa better. Samsung's is called something like Bixler or something like that, and it's not Bixler. What is it? It's Bixby. They've spent millions of dollars making that stuff work, and so now they're using that technology to help you control your smart home. So like the internet connected devices earlier, which ecosystem you choose comes down to personal choice. So if you don't own Apple products or you aren't comfortable with a Google device, a Google listening device in your home, you can go with one of the other companies. Privacy is a concern, and that's something that we'll talk about in a couple of minutes. Now, one of the things that I do want to point out that you might consider is voice recognition accuracy. If these hubs are being run by your voice, that's the main way you're going to interact with these hubs. Like, I think this Google Nest that I'm holding right now only has like a power button, so it's not like you can control things from it using other input stuff. You have to do voice controls. So if it doesn't understand you, or if it regularly doesn't understand you, your experience with that ecosystem will be very frustrating. So this is the chart that I have on screen is a chart of some consumer review testing about which of the big three. So it doesn't poor Bixby from Samsung doesn't get included, but Google Assistant, Alexa, and Siri are all on there, and it shows how accurate each of those three are, depending on the kinds of questions that they're being asked. All three, Siri, Alexa, and Google Assistant, are fine. Google Assistant performs the best overall, but Siri is the best at understanding commands. And so if you're already in the Apple ecosystem and you are wanting to build a smart home, then Siri will do really well at understanding what you're asking it to do when it comes to commands. Now, if you say, but Trey, I don't want to use any of those ecosystems, and if you have concerns about inviting multinational mega corporations into your house, which, we'll talk more about that in a couple minutes, you can still use internet connected devices. You can still make a smart home. Most of the smart device companies that we talked about earlier, like Eufy, and that whole slide of companies like Eufy and iRobot and all those companies, they are compatible with the various smart home ecosystems, but they aren't necessarily required. They have their own apps that allow you to control those devices directly without using Google, Amazon, or Apple hubs as a middleman. And so if you want to dabble in making a smart home, you don't necessarily have to have the hub ecosystems. The main drawback, though, to this approach is that is the lack of voice controls. And if you have more than one device brand, like say you have an iRobot, like a Roomba and a Eufy, a set of Eufy lights, you'll have multiple apps that you have to run things through, because apps like Google and Alexa can integrate those things into one app, whereas if you're not using that stuff, you're going to have to keep track of multiple apps, which, that's not a huge deal. So if you don't mind, keeping track of multiple apps, you can just skip using the hub altogether, and then you won't have to worry as much about the privacy issues that we're going to talk about here in a minute. So in our increasingly internet-connected world, there are a couple of big questions that you need to assess before you commit a lot of money and time to making your house a smart home. The first is security. So you need to think about each internet-connected device as a new door that you're adding to your house. In the physical world, there actually is no such thing as a completely unpickable lock. Given enough time, even if force is required, someone could pick the lock on your front door. There wouldn't really be any stopping them. You need to think of internet-connected devices similarly. There are things that you can do to limit your exposure, but if you're letting stuff in, then there's no way that you can be 100% assured that you can keep out the people that you don't want getting in. This doesn't mean that you should live in fear. It just means that you need to be aware of these vulnerabilities. This will allow you to assess how much control of your life you are willing to give over to the internet-connected devices. Make sure that you use a strong password for your Wi-Fi router, and make sure that all of your devices' firmware is up to date. And then, of course, on anything, if you have the option to use two-factor authentication, do it. The other major issue to be aware of with smart homes is your digital privacy. This time the concerns come from two fronts. Black hat hackers in the companies that you might be inviting into your home. Both want to know information about you. Thankfully, the hacker worries can be lessened by following the tips I outlined in the last slide. Lessened. I just want to be very clear. Lessened. As for the mega corporations like Google and Apple and Samsung and Amazon, only you can decide how much you're willing to let them know. Just remember that for some of these companies, in particular Google and Amazon, their entire business model is based around knowing what you are buying, searching for, watching, and more. So here are some tips for protecting your privacy with a smart home. Regularly audit your personal privacy concerns. Only you can know what is your limit and when it comes to how much these companies know about you. But not everyone has thought about that before. So as you are planning your smart home, think about where your line is and then reassess it occasionally and adjust accordingly. Do you want to minimize how much information Google or Amazon are collecting about you? Did you know that both companies' smart speakers keep records of what you're saying to them? For example, hold on, so this is my wife asking our Alexa to turn the lights on this morning.
Computer, turn on house lights.
So it literally records every interaction that you have with them, even ones where it's unintelligible. Let me see if I can find one really quick. I should have. Now, ostensibly, that is so that they can improve accuracy, but it is something that they're recording. I believe, I should have looked it up before this, but I believe they delete them after a certain period of time. The nice thing is that you can do it yourself. You can delete these interactions by going into the smart speaker settings in the app on your phone. You can set them up to delete. You can delete them all. You can have them deleted regularly. It's just something to be aware of. Also, if you're not all that concerned about privacy, if you go back and listen to some of them, they can be pretty hilarious. Like, you'll be like, what was I talking about when I did that? Because every once in a while it'll start listening in, even if you haven't said its wake word. And those are the most fun ones where you're just like, what did I say? One of the other things that you can do to lessen your exposure is do your research. If you have something you want to connect to your smart home, find out what the privacy, security, and accessibility options on it are. Go into a device knowing what it is, how you can affect that device when it comes to your privacy and security. If you have the ability to create a secondary Wi-Fi on your Wi-Fi router, you could create one specifically for your smart connected devices. This may help keep your devices siloed from the rest of the network and reduce vulnerabilities. Finally, if you don't have to make something smart, don't. Every smart device that you add adds vulnerability, potential vulnerability. Only you can determine where your line is, but for me, I'll probably never get an internet connected litter box. I can't imagine needing one of those. That is the end of my presentation. This went way quicker than I expected. Like I said, this is the first time that we've offered this. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat and I will answer them. I'll give you a couple minutes. Remember that if you signed up for this session and watched live, keep an eye on your email. You may have won the Google Nest Mini. I'll be sending that email out later today. So I'll give you a couple minutes for like a minute for questions, and if nobody asks, I'll sign off, and then this recording will be available on our YouTube page for future viewing if you need to review. Thank you, Zachary. We may do another one. I'm kind of surprised at how quickly we got through this information. There's a lot more that we could discuss. I just expected it. I don't know. I don't expected it to take longer. So we may do a smart home 102 or something like that. Intermediate smart home or something like that. So, I guess keep an eye on our website for website and our Facebook page. All right, well, y'all have a good afternoon, and like I said, this recording will be saved on our YouTube page if you need to refer back to it. So thank you, and have a good